party down, location mysterious. Wanna rock this con like my man James Tiberius. Jesse and Marina, they're mad clever like the Negus. Gonna guide you through the scenes, beam from London to Las Vegas. Where to go, how to dress, when to sleep, who to see. Celebs not to miss, Sardis Wong and SMG. Star Trek into awesome, build some memories at last. Set the proper course, the Shore Leave Podcast. Boom.
Welcome to the 89th episode of Shore Leave, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast. My name is Jesse Okendo, and with me, as always, is my favorite podcast partner, not just because she's the only one, Marina.
Well, thank you, Jesse. It's so good to record again. It feels like we're just kind of coming in, going out. Every once in a while, just pop in and record something.
We're well anticipated, Marina. Everybody's anxious for the next one.
So. But this is something that we were very much looking forward to record, and that's basically a look back at Star Trek: The Cruise 6, which, as of this recording, of the date of this recording, is basically a month ago. So it's wonderful to talk about it because it's one of the very few sort of official events that we have left. There's still plenty of other conventions to go to, but the cruise certainly is in the class of its own. So having said that, we have a special guest with us. We have a returning guest, Yezenia, who's one of our listeners who we adore. Welcome back, Yezenia. And we also have a new guest joining us, and that's Leana. And Leana, very, great welcome to you. First time guest of Shore Leave. Since you are the first time, can you please briefly introduce yourself and talk about yourself as a Star Trek fan?
Sure. Yeah. Leana Ahmed. I'm a nerd. My parents introduced me to Star Trek. I don't know life without it. My mother and father, when they first came to this country, Star Trek was on the air. My mom, when it was in reruns, and they loved the show. So I grew up as Captain Kirk as my first captain. It inspired my career in technology, and it continues to inspire me to this day. I cosplay several characters or just several divisions, and I love going to conventions. STLV 2021 was my first time to attend that one, and in years past I just couldn't make it happen just because it was in between anniversary and San Diego Comic-Con, so I had to prioritize, talking about saving money. It's and exactly. So now STLV is a must do for me. And this was my first Star Trek cruise ever, and my first cruise ever. I've never done cruises before either. So
amazing, Yezenia, for you as well. That's your first time cruise, finally, right?
Yes, finally. Yes, I was booked for the 2019 one, and like Jesse said, there are emergencies and big travel, big trips for me often mean catastrophe. But yes, I was finally able to make it onto this one, and so it was my second cruise, but my first Star Trek cruise.
Oh, that's amazing. So just out of curiosity, this was the sixth one. So I'm assuming you must have heard about it before. And I'm talking specific about Yesenia because I know that, you are STLV vet. So you must have seen when they popped up at the convention and started advertising it heavy time.
Oh, absolutely. I was there at the first convention that they went to when they were planning it for the next year. I want to say it was 2015. I think that was
something like, it was around the 50th. Yeah.
It was my first STLV, and they had a booth at STLV, and I remember thinking, oh, that'd be kind of cool. If I was going to go back on a cruise, it would be for that. But I didn't have on that day, I didn't sign up because I didn't yet have all these Star Trek friends that I have now, and so it just wasn't like a huge priority. But I thought, that might be cool. I might look into that. By the time I looked into it, it was sold out.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yes.
I
signed up. I was like probably the first one on the list, and I know that it's scary to say it's almost been a decade since my first Star Trek cruise, but I remember Yesenia. I kept telling you about it. I was so happy when you were going that one year, and then things happened. And then this year I wanted to see you there, and then I wasn't there. So we'll see what we can do to fix all that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be on a Star Trek cruise together again.
Yeah. In my case, I remember them advertising, and I thought, what a great idea. There were versions. There were different Star Trek themed cruises before. There was a sea track and a track. Bottom line is there was something happening somewhere on the sea that was Trek related, starting sometime, I think, in late 80s. But this is the first time that this was such a big thing with CBS's backing and everything. And the timing, the fact that it started out used to be a January cruise, it's just something that I absolutely could not do. And the year that they finally said, okay, we're moving it all the way to end of February, beginning of March, and that was Star Trek 4. So that was my very first cruise then. So this year was my third one. And I mean, I know it's a little bit early to say because I was going to talk about this at the end of the episode. I might be skipping next one. I'm sort of in the limbo right now purely because of the scheduling. Next year is supposed to be a Thursday to Thursday cruise, and that's kind of really throwing my scheduling into throwing quite a bit of a range in my scheduling. Let's put it this way. So, but regardless, we are here to talk about Cruise 6 foremost. So let's just start with like the overall. I mean, for you ladies, this was the first time. So overall impression, like, you that's it, you finally made it, and
I loved it.
You
I loved it. I loved it. And I love the fact that, so this is my first time ever cruising in general, but I don't think I could do any other kind of cruise. I'm spoiled for life. Like from what I
Same.
understand, other
Same.
cruises, you don't see, you're not seated with fans of something that you have in common. You spend most of the time with just your actual family, but everybody was my family. So anywhere I sat, I had somebody that I could relate to.
Yeah, you that whole awkwardness of all these people are strangers and I don't really know who they are kind of goes away on a Star Trek cruise, even if it's your first Star Trek cruise, because like it takes like 2 minutes to realize you're all there for the same thing and just as crazy as the other guy.
Right. Well said.
Well, my first impression was much like my first impression at STLV was just like instant joy. Leana and I happened to be together like the first day, early in the first day when
Yes.
we well, first of all, I went to the cruise port with Sean Mooney. Everybody knows Sean Mooney.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
he made this trip happen in like the span of days. Like it just all came together and he was able to make it
very
on
last moment. Yeah.
we had
Even-
some trouble with, I had some trouble that morning with my car getting hit. He had some trouble with his visa or something. Something was, they were holding us a little bit and he had to like sign up for something and the Wi-Fi was start. So anyway, it was, and I have this mentality anyway, because of, like I said, I have bad luck with trips, but I have this mentality of I'm not getting excited until I'm actually doing the thing. So we're going through, getting our passports checked and everything and signing up Sean for his thing. So I was not excited yet. Sean and I are walking up the passageway to get onto the ship. And as soon as we did that, we both just started screaming and like we just got giddy and we were just so nerding out. We were so excited to see the ECP, morale officer ladies wearing their TOS gants and handing us the programs. And we were just on cloud 9 from that moment. And then soon after that, Leana and I were walking down the promenade and they had music dancing and music playing and we just started dancing. I'm so happy, so excited. So my first impressions were just of pure, unadulterated joy.
So funny you talked about that day being just a cluster because the weather in Los Angeles was terrible. I mean, it was raining sideways, it was cold, miserable.
I thought that tent was gonna blow away.
Oh yeah, I thought I was gonna blow away.
Bring that up. You know something? I couldn't wait to get on board because I knew what was waiting for me on board. But the actual embarkation process, I was like, "This is really a drag." This
wet.
Is same thing. I was completely wet. My bags were wet. My sister was with me and our mutual friend Claudia, who actually did not even have the umbrella because she was expecting sunny California, and she was like, "What? Where's sunny California? What is this?" It's like she's from Netherlands. She's like, "Did I bring Dutch weather with me? What is going on here?" So we were standing under the tent during one of those really, really bad wind blows, and it really did feel like the whole thing was gonna go up in the air. It was such a
I took videos of that.
It was historically bad storm. I am
Mhm.
told that, when I was posting photos of everything and the fact that they had to bring the usual embarkation party inside rather than having everybody out on deck 11 and deck 12, everybody was basically packed in the promenade and on the decks that are facing promenade. And it was kind of like, what is going on? Even it just didn't feel like it was such a strange experience.
So as I was looking at like the stuff coming in, because I wasn't there. That might have been the only time I said to myself, maybe it's good I wasn't there, because it honestly, I'm like, wait a minute, like this is always sunny. There's always, a pool before the pool. And like when you get on, it's like you go straight to the pool. But like the pictures I saw were like, are they going to Alaska? What is going on right now?
Generally
We're
speaking,
going
if
to
you-
the ends of the earth at this point.
Yeah, generally speaking, if you kind of look at the entirety, I suppose, from the embarkation to disembarkation, I think the one parameter that was certainly, the most unlike the previous cruises where it was very unpleasant and, it did it could bring it down. But again, most people we came here for Star Trek, so we were mostly inside doing things inside, but it was most certainly the weather. Because, the first day it was it was a miserable experience embarking for various reasons. And then of course the fact that it was quite choppy, and the locals who, let me rephrase it. Basically, the folks on board who have cruised previously, not Star Trek, obviously, but other cruises, they said it tends to be this time of the year. Pacific tends to be much choppier than it is in the Caribbean. So, yeah, we were unfortunately unlucky in that regard. But I think it was a tremendous trip. I mean, I had so much fun. Those who do happen to follow me on Facebook, I posted my pictures as a sort of like a picture blog. We had a ton of fun.
Agreed. I mean, that first night, as yesterday, like we were just walking through the promenade, we started dancing and just looking at everyone's cosplays. It was the PJ night, right?
Yes.
And some of us had our stuff with us in the room ready to go, and then others were waiting on their bags still to come in. But it didn't matter. I mean, I just the joy of seeing everybody, and then planning out the evening. I nerded out, and yes, I know you do this too. Put everything in an Excel spreadsheet and kind of planned out what I was going to do. And yeah, the plan kind of, went to doo-doo. See, I didn't curse. I just let the night go to whatever I was going to do, and I think that was the best way to do it. I did get into my PJs, my Gorn pajama PJs, but which ended up being yummy sushi.
No, I'm curious.
Anyway,
I am curious. Since
Mhm.
both of you first timers, that's the first time you were on the ship it's exactly the same class of ship that they used last year, the Voyager class. So, like once I got on board, I was like, okay, I already know where everything is, because it's basically the same spots, what the restaurants are and what the pools are and everything. But did you actually kind of like walk around sort of to orient yourself? I know quite a few people kind of get lost first couple of days before you sort of figure out where everything is. Yeah, I did in 2020. I kept going in the wrong directions all the time.
There's a great video that I posted of our mutual friend Shiri and me trying to figure out the elevators, because I'm a complete cruise noob, right? And I don't know what his experience is. And it's just late at night. We're trying to figure out how to get to the one lounge, that's at the top of the ship.
Yeah.
And we're just but wait, this elevator, how does this, and it's just pure chaos, mental chaos. But there's people outside, and then there's people in that elevator. How are these people? It was just insane. It's a little bit like a House of Escher. I don't know. Yes, a little bit. I didn't know where anything was. And maybe now I'm by the end of the week I did, but not at the beginning.
So I was still getting lost by the end of the week, and I have a good sense of direction. But in my defense, here's what happened: is day one, I knew where I was going. Sean Mooney said, no, it's this way. Sean completely confused me. And after that, I was confused for the rest of the week. I was like,
oh, Sean.
I knew where I was
we
going.
Can blame him. We can just blame him. Yeah.
Blame Sean. Yes.
No, but it was nice that they had, maps clearly everywhere. They had those those digital wayfinders that you could just tap on.
Yeah. And what's more with the positive thing is compared to a large land-based convention, is the fact if you end up going in the wrong direction and you arrive, say, to, I don't know, Studio B, and you realize, oh, I actually should be at the Royal Theater. It's very easy to literally turn around and walk, because the distance is not very big. You'll still make it. Your chances of being late are not very high. So
the chances are high, because guess what? If you're on the wrong end of the ship and you are walking towards the other end of the ship, you're going to get stopped 8 million times and start chatting and then forget why you were trying to
Well,
walk to the other end of the ship.
that's
in the
true,
next
That's
too.
another thing. If you walk with purpose, you can make it. But yeah, that's, oh gosh, that's probably one of my favorite things is that, what with that embarkation party that was inside. And, I walked into the crowd and basically at some point my sister messaged me. She's like, didn't you tell me you were going to do this? I'm like, you know what? I must have spoken to about 30 people by now. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, but the evening is off to a great start. So that's the most important thing.
So if cabin brain is a thing, then like that's so I just thought maybe I'm just the one, I'm just getting older and senile, and maybe that's why. But it sounds like everyone did that, so I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, it's very common. But like you said, you do have maps. There is a way, and if anything, you just stop the first person and just say, "Am I going in the right direction?" And either they will direct you where to go, or you're going to be lost together. So either way, it's fun. I'm curious. What kind of cabins did you have? Did you have interior cabins or the balcony ones?
Balcony with an expanded balcony. Yes, I think we had the same cabin,
Yeah,
right?
we had the
Yeah.
same cabin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually my also a point of curiosity. Like, what did you think about the ship itself? Sort of like the cruising part of it.
I loved my cabin. I must always have the balcony. And okay, here's the funny thing about my cabin number 8528. I don't mind if people know what it is. That's the last 4 digits of my parents' home phone number that they've had forever. So it worked out great. I never forgot it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So Desi and I, we had that awful, COVID year, both being nurses. So we decided to splurge on the balcony, what is it called? Ocean
View, yes.
Ocean view, right? Yeah.
Well, I said ocean view because it's a balcony, but there's something else like expanded or
I think so.
Yeah, the expanded one has
Spacious.
a larger balcony. Yeah.
Yeah,
spacious.
yes.
That's right. It
That's
said
what it was. Yep.
spacious. Well, the extra space was about 4 inches. It wasn't what I would call spacious, but it was definitely fine for the two of us. And we, Desi and I tend to be very messy, shall I say, but we actually kept it together. It was pretty tidy. But no, it was very nice having that that balcony for the fresh air. We took like the nicest nap, just looking at the ocean and stuff. I'm not sure that we would need to do it again though, because I forgot what the price difference was, but we imagined we were going to be, having breakfast on the balcony and we're going to have coffee and we're going to relax. Yeah, we went out one time. It was way too cold and too windy. So yeah, we didn't really enjoy the balcony as much as we wanted to, but it was very, very nice. So
I loved my balcony. I did use it. I didn't eat on it as much, but I did drink on it a lot.
Oh, I polished my nails on the balcony, and that was quite nice because it didn't, stink up the cabin for Desi.
That's a good point.
I have to admit, I mostly used it to do, well, I did some photos off of it because the views were amazing, especially. To also, it's a lot of fun if you get up early enough and you actually witness the ship pulling into the port. That's always a wonderful experience because you can just see the whole thing. That was great.
Yep. I did.
Otherwise,
wake up early enough.
That's true. And then but for the most part, like for half a week roughly, it was either too choppy or too cold. So we were mostly, my sister and I just kind of observed. It was a nice fact that we had basically, we could see outside, but it wasn't much usable. I think we did spend a couple of days where we just walk outside and have ice cream that we brought from Ben and Jerry's or something like that. Just sit down and kind of chill. But yeah, otherwise it's like there's so much stuff to do inside. There wasn't really, like the expectation, I'm going to be sitting on my balcony. That didn't happen much at all. Having said that, since I was on last year's cruise, and it's the same, like I said, it's the same class of the ship. The ship itself felt a little bit older to me. And I forgot to actually ask, those people who are repeats, like, did they feel the same way? Because it felt a little bit like our room was fine, but, casework looked just a tad dilapidated by comparison. And there was this very odd smell if you were by Studio B, like something was leaking. And I'm like, I don't know if that's because of the weather. Is that like because the ship is going up? And I mean, certainly not about the casework, but maybe the smell was there because of that.
Yeah, they definitely had a sewage leak there.
Oh, you think so?
Okay.
I was trying to guess.
What
what was going on, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely sewage.
Oh man, I didn't. I missed the smell, but to your point, I did feel it was a little aged, and not having gone on a cruise ever before in my life, just from an appointments perspective, I was like, oh okay. I mean, you weren't the first person to mention something like that, and once they said that, I was like, oh, I guess this is maybe a little older, or it's just not refurbished. But it didn't bother me; it was fine.
Yeah.
I will say the mattress, there was a bar underneath. I mean, I just like I slept sideways on my bed more comfortably than the direction they
Yes,
probably
and I
wanted
know
me to sleep.
this actually
that
does
a-
come up. This actually does come up that people complain that the bed feels quite hard. For those who are listening and wondering about that, you can actually talk to the cabin attendant, and they can bring like an extra layer to
I
kind
did
of
not.
soften it
Yeah,
up.
I learned that
Yeah.
much later, and I was like, it's too late. And the thing is, I could sleep anywhere, and I didn't sleep that much anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah,
I slept too much. I missed most of the parties because all I did was sleep.
And
Hey,
I
but
liked
that
the
means you-
rocking.
That means you needed that.
I
Yeah,
really did.
yeah.
Yeah, I really did. But yeah, going back to the first night, I had my PJs and my shuttlecraft
Tread course.
slippers in my backpack, my rolly suitcase, my rolly backpack, because I wanted to
Ugh.
be ready for the pajama party. I was so ready for that pajama party that I fell asleep and stayed asleep.
But we did get to see you rock your shuttle slippers, because I had my
Oh.
Homer Simpson slippers on.
I
Because
admire
my
people
socks
who
were
wear
soaked.
shuttle slippers. I admire people who do that because I know for a fact if I were to wear them, I would be on the floor faster. You can say, I don't know, red alert or something.
Oh, I did fall. I fell down
no.
the stairs on the first night, and it was before the ship even started moving.
Yesenia,
It
no.
was before I took my Dramamine. And it wasn't even because I tripped with the shuttlecraft slippers. It was just they like slipped down the stairs, and I just went up, up on my butt, and I was laughing so hard. There was only one guy to see it, and he kind of looked up and like Jake just gave one chuckle, and I was like, "Dude, you are not laughing nearly as hard as you need to be." So funny.
This is
But
why
yeah,
I
I
love
had to
you,
wear
'cause
my
you're- this
shuttle
is
pod
funny.
slippers because my socks and my shoes were soaking wet from all the rain.
Can we talk about your trek core, your shuttle? What do we call them? Your slipper bags that you carried also.
Well, I mean, I've seen Yesenia go to Vegas, and like it sounds a bit tame than when she comes in with like a trolley of her stuff. So it wasn't
Yes,
that bad, was it?
I only had 2 pieces of luggage and my rolly backpack. And honestly, my rolly backpack was mostly comprised of those big old slippers because they were so
I invested in those compression bags, like those clear
Yes.
plastic ones that you can suck the air out. So silly me. It's just me, little old me, 2 rollers, 2 hand like carry-on bags, 2 roller bags, and a backpack. And I was the comedic person trying to wield all that in the windy, rainy
Oh
weather
my gosh.
to the embarkation. So, and only the backpack went on. Yeah, that was me. Because I didn't. I forgot that I didn't have anybody traveling with me. I don't know why. I was like, oh, somebody will help me. I didn't realize how much I had to do by myself before
no.
getting on. It was pretty funny.
You should have called the cavalry. You should have posted, I need help.
Yeah,
My fingers were so cold and numb.
Oh my gosh, I could imagine.
Yeah, the
I
embarkation
had
was
the
just scary.
foresight to bring my little what is that called? It's like a little folding dolly.
Oh yeah, I wish I had that dolly thing.
So
Yeah,
I had
don't.
that. So I stacked my big piece of luggage and my little piece of luggage on that and rolled that, and then had my backpack
Oh,
on my
so
back.
smart. Yeah, I did not
Wow.
have that.
Yesenia, you
I-
would
But
then it
certainly
came
put a
in
lot of
handy.
planning into that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
kinda-
didn't. I've never gone out of LA, but what I read, because like it wasn't a typical embarkation from what I
Yeah.
was reading,
Right.
and not just the weather, but I guess they were doing some work there, because like usually like and I've just left out of Florida, right? But like you can drive up and they just take your bags right there. But it sounds like that wasn't an option.
Well,
Like you had to
here's
like get
here's the
No.
thing. Like besides the
what I-
historically bad weather, which already was, as we mentioned multiple times, bad enough. Because of the bad weather, a lot of people were showing up at the wrong times. Even though ECP said, they are trying to enforce the times that people are signing up for the actual embarkation. I was part of the group that signed up for it. Was a wonderful lady. Shout out to Barbara. Unfortunately, I don't remember her last name. She organized basically a private charter bus for like 50, 60 people, everybody who was getting on between, I think, 11 and 11:30. And we show up and it's a pandemonium, and it's people who are supposed to be there at 12, and it's people who are supposed to be there at 1, because everybody started rushing the port because of this weather. On top of that, there was another ship, I believe, leaving, because there were definitely people who were not part of the track thing. So I could be mistaken. So bottom line, it was like a confluence of all the bad stuff that was happening between the weather and people showing up at the wrong times, people driving up. There was traffic, because so people were trying to kind of, I'm just here to drop him off. And meanwhile, there's like 30 cars lined up trying to do the same thing. The porters were basically, I don't know how they managed it, because they were just grabbing everybody's bags, trying to get the stuff inside as quickly as possible. Meanwhile,
Oh,
and so just to kind of say also,
yeah.
by comparison, like I think Orlando probably has the nicest terminal, I have to say. This looks, between those really really strange tents that we had to stand outside, it was like two tents
It
in the
did.
barn. That's what it looked like. It's like
It
compared
did.
to that,
Yeah, it looked like
Orlando's like a spaceport.
It
But
did look like from the pictures, I'm like, it almost looked like you were in a refugee center and you were trying, but instead you were
you
trying
are
to
not
leave.
wrong.
But
You
know
are not
something?
wrong, Jesse.
But
Yeah,
instead
but
of trying to get
kudos.
in, you were just trying to get out.
Yeah, basically. But kudos to the staff. You have to hand it to them, because they were doing their best to kind of direct the lines, and basically saying, like, you go there, you do this, and once you were inside, the actual check-in, where they checked your documentation, whatever they did, it was super fast. So like once you actually go up to the agent, boom, you're done. That's it. You just move on, and like Yezenia mentioned, that's it. All of a sudden, you're on this little way going up to the ship, and all the troubles are behind you. I mean, it's so miserable until you actually get on board, but at least you're done. So yeah, so the actual embarkation was a strange little thing that we all had to go
I
through.
packed my cruise tags that I bought from Amazon. I packed them accidentally. So the porters, I shout out to those porters, because they had the staplers on them to help you staple your luggage to those tags, those special tags that I didn't know cruise luggage needed. I printed everything out, but I, at the last minute, realized I bought those plastic, clear plastic things to put those the tags in, and I packed the
But
tags.
they were pretty fast
Yeah.
about it too. I saw there was like a separate table where they were trying to,
Oh
those people
no,
who did not
not
have
when I was there.
for whatever reason. Oh really?
No, not when
Oh.
I was there. No, there was I just had the tags. Remember, it's raining, right? So I hit the tags in my purse. Oh, that was the other thing. I had a purse too. And then I was like, does anybody, I don't have the holders, because they're waiting for you to staple it. And so one porter yelled to another one, I need a stapler, and then they threw the stapler and they stapled me up and took my bags that way. But otherwise there was no table. At least
Yeah,
not for the 1
yeah,
o'clock.
they must have done it later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but bottom line is we got through it, we got on board. I kind of already, it's sort of a similar thing to what I asked before, but did you actually get to like check out things, or you kind of like, okay, that's it, dropped off the bags and track partying begins? Because I know like quite a few track specific locations that they had on board were sort of like, spread out all over. And I know for a fact that quite a few people, even returning ones, did not actually make it there. Like, for example, the museum, or like some people did not make it to the shop because they kept having all these lines for people to get in. Did you actually get to check all of this out during the week? Did you manage to do it maybe like in the
I
first
didn't
couple
get
of
to
days?
see a lot of it. I didn't see the museum. I got into the shop sort of by accident, I hit all the bars and all the lounges. But I didn't, there's a couple of, there's a lot I missed, I will say.
I did
Yeah.
not make it to the museum, and the shop, I made it like one of the last days, which
Same.
was pretty picked over by then. One, because the line was just ridiculous. And two, the hours were ridiculous. Like there was
Yes.
not, it was like, okay, today we're open from 9:30 to 11:30 and that's it. And then the next day we're open from 4 to 5. Like they were way too limited. Was way too many things to remember that I wasn't going to prioritize remembering what time the museum was open. Like I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
well,
I agreed.
didn't go.
Agreed.
it is an unfortunate thing, and they've done it all 3 cruises that I've been on where they had the Starfleet Museum. I don't know the reasoning for the specific times that they had, but it was the same thing on every cruise so far, where on its given day it could be, it could be, I don't know, 12 to 5, or it could be, like you said, 9:30 to 1, and just completely random thing. And more often than not, it would coincide with everything else. So all the
That was
Q&As
it.
and the
Exactly.
presentations and the
The
performances
pictures.
and the
And the-
photo ops, exactly.
Mhm.
So it was a very unfortunate thing. I mean, I must have spent, oh God, well, we talked about Excel spreadsheets. I had my Excel spreadsheets where I was trying to
Yep.
kind of cross-reference where I could find at least half an hour to an hour where I could go and do it, which kind of, like, if you think about it, we have this 7-day thing where we have a lot of things not happening until, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning, perhaps, and
Mhm.
going all the way down into midnight. And yet somehow you can't find, the half an hour to actually stop by and take a look at something
So-
that takes up like one large room on, was it deck 12
The,
or
the
whatever.
museum hours, and correct me guys if I'm wrong, but the museum hours weren't posted until we boarded, right? Because I would have
Yes.
totally added them to my spreadsheet, but I didn't
No,
remember seeing them.
it was
Okay, good.
basically, it was something that was posted once we were on board, and they would also include it in the daily schedules. It was like on the last page, it would actually say, these are the opening hours for pretty much everything on board, including the museum.
Okay, great. Because did I miss it somehow? Somewhere.
All right. Generally speaking, so how much did you, like, Yesenia already mentioned that she she was doing quite a bit of sleeping, but the schedule had quite a few things that were of interest to I mean, they tried to do it across all the different series. We had the Deep Space Nine cast panel, we had the Voyager panel, we had this and that. Performances were amazing. What did you get to do, and what was your favorite? Because, like, I'm always surprised at how you talk to people and they're like, oh, I love this thing. I'm like, really? I mean, no, it was great, but I'm
I got to do a lot of the
do?
parties. I did a lot of the parties at night. And I really enjoyed, I didn't get to do as many big room panels as I wanted to do, just because, like you said, for the timing and everything. But I really enjoyed the last nights of karaoke, and I enjoyed the silent disco on, I think, the first night, and then the captain's party, which was like the second night.
Did you actually prepare something specific
Yes.
to wear for every of the theme parties?
Yes, I did.
Wow, you're amazing. Because it's just, you know what, I realized at some point when I was getting ready for my very first cruise, I kind of tried to at least do like themed t-shirts. That's as far as my imagination could take me, and I still find it to be a bit of a chore. And what's more, I actually didn't make it to even single party. So I'm like, at this point, I'm just like, cruise is my week of complete chill. So I just pick random t-shirts and I relax. And truth be told, I actually didn't make it to a single party this time around either. So go figure.
Really?
Hey,
Yeah,
I don't feel as bad now.
no, don't. It's sort of like walking through promenade when you get stopped. I would be like, okay, at least I'm gonna stop by and see what it looks like. And then somebody says, why don't we all go and have a dinner, at Chops? And that's it. Your dinner.
Everything else is done.
Yeah, evening's occupied, or you end up being in the bar. Like we had this amazing Elton impersonator on board this time around, which kind of blew my mind. I
Yes.
did not expect to see something like this, and he was great fun. So we had stuff to do besides the parties, obviously, but I'm just, whatever your taste in entertainment is, I guess we have it all on board.
And I didn't disembark except for something. Actually, thank you, Yez, again, a million thanks for the Mazatlan tour. It was one of the highlights of the trip. Just that was the only place I got down, and getting to do Mazatlan with people I adore was a lot of fun, and it was just a special outing for me. But otherwise, I don't know. Yes, did you get down I think you disembarked every port. I did
got off
not.
the ship.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican. I'm not afraid of anything. So yeah.
Oh, it wasn't that. I had just done Cabo. I had just done Cabo enough, and Cabo for me, like this, I'll get a little personal. My ex-husband and I, Cabo, I was still not ready. I thought I was going to be ready, but I wasn't. And then PV, I had too much family spread out all over the place, and I was like, no, not gonna. No, it's gonna be too difficult. So I'm just gonna stay close to the port and just hang out there. I did get off the ship in PV. I just didn't go too far.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and like I think before the cruise there was a lot of concern about going too far and a lot of worry, and like it's kind of when I hear that stuff, when everybody got back, they're like, we were worried about what, because those ports are very tourist. I mean, you stay at the port, you're okay. It's when you like
Yeah.
go to the guy on the corner holding a sign that says free rides that you should be
Yeah,
worried.
and that's your own fault. If something happens to you at that point, that's your fault. I mean, what, like Yaz and I, we talked about like I forgive the phrase, but third world mentality. Like you just kind of know, like you just know how to take care of yourself
Yeah.
when you're
No, but
out of
there
country.
was-
Don't look
there
like a victim.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the most
exactly.
part, yes. The people who said that, like, yeah, as long as you're within that very touristy area, you probably should be fine. Just like in any, like if you go to a big city, I'm right next to New York. You just have your wits about it and just pay attention to what's going
Yeah,
on.
be smart about your
I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
we Olga and I were not planning to do any excursions and we ended up literally just walking outside at Puerto Vallarta just to kind of like say like, yeah, we actually stepped on Mexican soil. And that was hilarious because
And you
just
stepped
in,
right
like,
into the Walmart.
exactly. That was the random conversation I had with somebody, and they said, "Oh, that's a good thing." It's like Puerto Vallarta is the most Mexican of all the places, and we walk outside, and the first thing we see is Walmart, and yeah, so it's like, and then was like a really big mall nearby, and we're like, well, maybe we'll go over and I don't know, like have a coffee in the cafe or something, and the mall was obviously closed, so we was like, that's okay, we'll just go around, just check out flea markets or something, which we did, and we had a wonderful walk for like 2 hours around, and then we went back on the ship. So that was still quite a lot of fun. But we bumped into you. It sounded like you had a really, really great one in Puerto Vallarta. You were going on was it the catamaran or something? It was yes.
Me or Leana?
Oh yeah, you.
Yeah.
Not me. Yeah, it was definitely
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yezenia, yeah.
So the day we went to Puerto Vallarta was actually my birthday. So Desi and I, we hadn't planned any other than the thing in Mazatlan. We hadn't planned any excursions or anything. So the night before, we noticed that there were some openings in some of the excursions, and so there happened to be 2 openings for the luxury yacht. It was something like luxury yacht sale or something. And I was like, oh, Desi, there's 2 open. And she's like, let's do it. Like, all right. Best birthday ever. It was so relaxing. We both took our Dramamine and we were fine. They gave us the most amazing ceviche ever. Of course, Desi doesn't eat ceviche, so I ate hers.
Nice.
Free drinks.
That is the way to do it.
They were good drinks too. I snorkeled, got too much sun. Oh, it was just so beautiful. We saw whales.
That's
We
amazing.
heard the whale song under the water. Like it was just an amazing magical birthday. I loved it so
Oh,
much.
that's
So
wonderful. By the way, for those who are listening, that is a thing to do. Like all these specially, like separately ticketed events. So you have the shore excursions and also the stuff that happens on board. Always check out because people back out of the tickets, and even though something that may be showing up is sold out because once it went on sale, there's a rush, people grab it, and then things happen, people back out. So always ask. That was like there was one of the wine tastings on board that I wanted to get into that was sold out when the tickets went on sale. And I just sent ECP an email saying, like, just in case if you have a wait list, if somebody backs out, I would be certainly interested. And that's what happened. I actually managed to get in on it the same way as you found 2 openings. They just contacted me and said somebody decided not to do the wine tasting. Are you still, you're still available, you're still interested? Of course I am. So yeah. Did you actually besides that, did you get to do anything on board, like one of those special tastings, or I think they had like a paint class or something?
I didn't do any of those because those all sold out, and I didn't. I had other things I was doing. So there's, like you said, there's so many things to do. I I was worried about FOMO because I didn't get those, but then like you said, there's so many things to do that you didn't miss it anymore, right? You're like, oh no, I was entertained in another way.
You
But
basically,
yes,
you
I
know,
think
like
you did, yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of like it's like, well, Yesenia is a convention vet. She knows that at some
Mhm.
point you kind of have to learn how to pick something,
Oh
you know,
yeah, it's a
over
Sophie's
another
choice
thing,
in every
because
day.
it's impossible. And I have to say, like this year in particular, they did have quite a few overlaps in the schedule for like just the regular scheduling. You know,
Mhm.
certain panels we will think like, well, that's a
Oh
cast
yeah.
panel and that's a cast panel, and I wish they like literally shifted it just by 15 minutes. So I know some people did quite a bit of running between the two, or the three actually, because they think DS9, Voyager, and TNG were all kind of intersected on one day.
That
Yep.
was awful. I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
they
remember
do
that day. Yeah, yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, you kind of like just sit down and like look at it as realistically as possible and just kind of structure your schedule. I'm very happy with all the panels that I managed to get to. I mean, panels. Some of these were performances, some of these were just playing Q&As, and others were, of course, like Armin Shimmerman did his Shakespeare class again, for example, and I was very, very thrilled to actually see him do it in person. I mean, it's only a 45-minute. He himself says, like, I can only do that much, you know, stick all the information that he normally does for like a semester when he teaches, and kind of stuff it into 45-minute presentation that he can do for the cruise. But still, it was just wonderful. We got some pretty amazing stuff on board this year.
The one thing that I kind of wish I got to do, and and the funny thing is, this prompted me to open up my spreadsheet just to kind of remind myself what the schedule was like. Because I put things that I wanted to do, and then there was things that I had to do, like the photo ops and things. And the photo ops also, by the way, overlapped with everything, right? So you're standing in line waiting for that to get done. But there was the movies that they would show on deck. I don't know how many times they actually got to do it because the weather was a challenge, but there was Star Trek movies under the stars at the pool stage. Did anybody get to do those? I wish I got to do those, and that always just sounded really fun to me, but I
You
never
know,
actually
I
do one.
wanted to, and I did the same
Mhm.
thing. I put them in my schedule because I thought, well, that it would be fun, you know, like sit down and watch, you know, First Contact, for example, or something.
Yeah,
One of my favorites. And but in this case, it's sort of the same thing as parties. Something would happen with somebody say, why don't we go do this thing together? And I'll be like, well, it's going to be more fun to hang out with this person because they're in a completely different state, very far away. I only really see them, you know, hopefully at least in Vegas, but this time around I can actually get to see them twice a year. So I'd rather do it with them, you know. So, you know, none of the movies actually happened. And, you know, in the back of my head, I was like, well, I've seen all these movies a million times. I should be fine. But
It's fun to watch it with a crowd. That's always
exactly,
the best
exactly. I want
part.
that experience. I mean, they showed, we actually got to see the, which was it? Was it the second or the third episode of season three?
Third,
Third. We got to
third,
see it
yeah.
like a hour and a half, 2 hours before it dropped in West Coast. So that was a fun experience. And it just so happened I was sitting between two of my friends who write reviews. So they saw the screeners because they had to write stuff ahead of time. And they would say, and I could just see like sort of like them squeezing themselves because they're the ones who like they will never tell you, they will not drop hints, they will not, but they already saw it, so like they know what's gonna happen, and they're like literally watching me just to see my reaction to what's going on the screen. That was a really really fun because like, you know, something would happen and I would get squeezed from both sides.
Nice.
It wasn't this amazing. That was
Oh my
great.
gosh.
That was
You know,
great.
you guys had you had the same experience that like I always think I'm never gonna. So I went on a first cruise, and they you know how they say like your first, you know, is always like that one, and you can't ever repeat that. But I do every year. I went on a cruise, and it's because you get to go on here and just be kids, and you know, I'm not worried about like, you know, my house. I'm not worried about my job. I don't even turn on my phone sometimes, you know, and so I can just like not be me for a while, which is, it sounds like that's what you guys are.
You know, it's so funny you said. So my boss was so keen on me going on this cruise because he and his wife, they go cruising and do all this stuff all the time every year. And in fact, like next week he's gone. And so he was keen for me to do this. And I don't know, yes, for you, but for me, I didn't feel fully relaxed until like the Monday. So like we're only on the boat like 3 days in, and I'm still like you know, nervous about the work phone and what have you. But yes, I don't know when you felt like actually relaxed, like that was how it was for me anyway.
For me, it was the moment we stepped onto the ship.
Oh, really? I tried so hard, and the alcohol helped, but I really didn't feel relaxed until Monday. I remember the day it happened. I was like, oh, I'm on vacation.
Well, that's like there. It all depends, right? So like, I know for some it's right when you get there, and for some it takes a minute, right? And then you have your spectrum. But you know, I think the other thing that helps is going there knowing you're going to see faces that are familiar. Like the last cruise I went on, I didn't go with a group or with a, you know, I left my house alone, got to the airport alone, flew alone, right? And then I didn't really like even feel excited until I started seeing those other faces. And for folks who went and it was their first time and they were traveling solo, I can just imagine it took them more than
that was me. That was me. That was me.
So yeah, and you know, like the last time I went, I felt I'll admit, like last year when I went, I felt a little sad because I didn't have like my core group, you know, my clique, because you know this is like high school, right? And I wasn't in the car with them, and I wasn't meeting them at the airport or before the cruise, right? But the minute I got like to the hotel where people were, that kind of dropped away, and you know, and that made all the difference. But I was very apprehensive last year, thinking, oh, if I'm not with this group, what am I going to do? And then that wasn't an issue after like an hour on the ship. Although I didn't get cut off by 4 p.m. that year. That only happened one year, the first year. And then I'm good for the drinking now.
They cut you off? How does that, like, really? What
my first year, I'm a legend, yes. So my first year, first cruise, my friend, it was 3 of us that went together in a interior cabin. So it was a horrible, like claustrophobic feeling the whole time. But we got there and we were sailing at 12 that first year. And so we got there, got on the ship, got our drink stuff, and then like none of us had been on a cruise. So my friend and I was like, oh, let's go get a drink now that we're here, blah, blah. And then the worst thing you want to hear, you should never do this when you're on your first day of the cruise. Let's do shots.
or maybe.
So we got tequila and lost track of how much tequila. I just remember we woke up at 9 o'clock. That's all our 9 p.m. Now we sailed at 12, and so then we had to go ask questions to find out what happened. And by 4 we were cut off and directed to our cabins. And then what happened between 12 and 4, there's a lot of stories, and I don't believe a lot of them, let's just say. Yeah. But by 9 we could drink again, so that was okay.
That's just too funny.
Yeah, even Jordan Hoffman was there that year, and even he stopped us and he went, you guys are awesome, you party like rock stars. We're like, who is that and why is he saying that? So we didn't buy internet, but we did buy like an hour of internet, which was crazy expensive, and it was bad internet, just to see what Twitter and Facebook had, which yeah, a bit. So we
That's
yes, it was fun.
Oh,
It was
so
fun,
funny.
and I shall never do it again.
Yeah, but it's so easy, you know, like it's you know, it's something, it's the same thing in Vegas. It's like you if you start, you know, you go to a bar and you're your friends and you're having fun and nice cocktails, and at some point you just realize you no longer have any knees, you know. So
Shall
but
we talk about the time that I fell asleep in the bathroom stall by the masquerade bar?
I remember this. I remember this story.
so did you
Yeah,
actually did you get to try like all the specialty, well, not all, okay, at least some of the specialty cocktails that they had on board?
I
'Cause
tried
I tried a
two,
few.
all of
it's
two.
one of my
tried a
favorite
few.
things to actually like go through every bar and just to see how it's decorated, because it's themed differently every year.
I
And they
don't
come
know.
and they come up with a menu, and it's such fun. It's like I'm like there's no way, like I realized I don't actually drink that much. I thought I was, but once I got on my very first cruise, I'm like I guess I'm I'm very boring. But I did try to at least one cocktail at which each one of the specialty bars just to try it out because Plasma Zombie was very, very fun at Trekkie Tiki if you like cinnamon and fruity things.
So I don't know how anybody can survive. It's so funny you mentioned Trekkie Tiki, Marina, because I was thinking about that part. I was like, I don't know how anybody can survive drinking all those drinks. There were some potent cocktails on that list.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
they were good. They were good. I did the Niners bar ones as well. And can we talk about that one pizza place that stays open till 3 a.m. where the after party would happen? And there was Uno being played, there was pizza being eaten, and a lot more shenanigans. That was a lot of fun too. And that's all I can say about that. I've been sworn to secrecy.
Well, since you brought up pizza, let's
Yes.
talk about the food places. Now, this was a slightly different combination of I mean, as far as the stuff that is covered by your, I'm doing quotation marks with my fingers right now, admission. So it's part of the price cruise. So the cruise price, pardon me. So the main dining room, the Windjammer buffet, the cafe promenade, all of that. So I'm assuming that you must have used this extensively throughout. Did you get to try any of the specialty restaurants? So let's talk about actually, yeah, let's talk about both of them. Like, what did you think about, did you do MDR? Did you do Windjammer? I'm assuming you did.
Yes. Yeah, I did both. And yes, we did we did them both together a couple of times as well.
Windjammer and MDR, yes. And definitely Cafe Promenade.
Yes.
For the snacks. I myself did not do any of the specialty restaurants just because it seemed stressful to try to get a reservation, that I was like, forget it. If I'm not about the stress this trip. So if it required any kind of planning, I wasn't going to do it.
Nice.
That is, you are after my own heart. That's how I cruise. I'm like, if you want me to join you for dinner, you're making a reservation because I'm not doing a damn thing.
I did the one reservation that came with the unlimited dining package thingy.
Yeah.
They kind of set you up for one. So I got that sorted out, and I joined a couple of our other friends from the LAOA team, and we did that on the first night. And I didn't do any other restaurants, and I just didn't get the chance. I just didn't want to plan it. And I kept forgetting that they existed because the MDR food was pretty good,
Yeah. The
Yeah.
main dining room, I love it because especially, I had to learn this over time, but like what I like about it is like you get your dedicated wait staff if you set up your own table, your dinner time.
Mhm.
And like they do get to know you and they're very friendly. I almost married one. But I think she didn't mean it.
Yeah, it's in my case, Olga and I were deeply disappointed in 2020. We were not impressed by food at all. And then last year, we kind of did sort of a 50-50, and the 50 that belonged to the food that was part of the MDR was similarly, it was okay. And that okay, I found it disappointing because if I'm planning to go on a vacation that happens to be something that's quite expensive, let's face it, and long planned. I mean, we have, everybody kind of does this for a whole year as we plan everything and do the monthly payments and everything else. And so I spoke with, my usual traveling companion, my sister. I said, well, what do we do in terms of food this year? And we decided to splurge. So we bought 2 unlimited dining packages, which, wait for it, actually paid for themselves by the end of second day. So we had lunches and dinners in restaurants, in Chops, which is the steakhouse, and Jamie's, the Italian place. And all throughout the entire week, you can set up the reservations on the first night, what we ended up doing. And it was a magnificent experience. It was so good. We did end up doing.
Did they let you
what was
do
that? I'm sorry.
Did they let you do reservations on the phone, like on their app, or did you have to go talk to someone?
The moment we were on board, like I had a sit down with the friends that I was embarking together with. We had a brief lunch, and then the moment that they were open, I just went over to Chops, I think, and the gentleman helped me out because they have it's one system. So I was just saying, okay, and on Friday we want to do lunch at Jamie's at that time, and he would just mark it off. And so I didn't have to do like separately Chops visit, separately hooked
I got
Oh, I
visit,
you.
didn't
separate.
know that.
No,
Yeah,
you just show
I'm
up in
learning
one
here.
yeah, if for the unlimited dining package, you kind of you set up when you buy it, you kind of pick the first night.
Yeah.
That one, it's sort of like you have to do it. And then on that same day, you can set up the rest of them. And then, of course, you're free to move them around, cancel them, do whatever you want as the week goes on, and you kind of adjust your own schedule. But it certainly worked for us. So we were very happy with how it works. So, whenever we go next time, we're certainly going to do unlimited dining again.
Yeah, if I do this again, I was on the fence about unlimited dining, but it's because I didn't do it right. I didn't do it the way you did it. I didn't, know how to do it correctly, I guess. So,
No, it all comes out to kind of like your preferences.
Yeah.
So, for example, I did the math 3 times now for the unlimited drinking package, and every single time it comes out to I don't consume enough drinkable stuff to warrant it. Whereas, I'm a bit of a foodie, so as far as food goes, it worked for me. So it kind of obviously it's all perfect, completely personal preference.
If I may, so the going back to like not wanting to like plan anything or be stressed out, because as soon as we got on the ship, we saw friends waiting in that long line to make reservations, and I was completely put off by that concept, like no way. And the other thing is, we had a little group chat going, and I knew from just convention experiences in the past that what I do like to do is be like, hey, I'm hungry, let's go, whoever wants to meet me here. That's what I really liked about not having reservations, because I know had I had reservations and was doing something else or talking to someone else, I would have been annoyed by like, oh, well, now I've got to go do that.
We use that, Olga and I use it specifically for the set. So like the big dinner in the evening, that sort of thing.
Right.
Otherwise, like, that sort of thing, like, I'm hungry, let's go get a snack. For that, Windjammer was perfect. And I mean, they had the usual spread where you had, you had your burgers, you had some, some curry, you had some pasta, you had a little bit of everything. So that worked in that regard. That was probably the best place to go to.
Yeah, I like just being able to, just be free and stuff. And then also, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, about the unlimited drink package. I actually did want that, not because like I'm a huge drinker, but because they had all those specialty cocktails. I wanted to be able to like order a bunch and be like, that was not that great, and not feel guilty about not finishing. So exactly what I thought might happened is that I had 2 drinks the entire time, because I was like looking at the menu, and Leana, you mentioned the one, or no, I think Marina, you mentioned the one that was like fruity, but it had cinnamon in it. I don't like the taste of artificial cinnamon. And so when I asked the bartender, can you just like omit that part? He said no. So I was like, well, none of these like I was just like, I forget, I don't want anything then. So I had all of 2 drinks the entire time. Just because I was like, I don't know if I want to finish that. And also I was incredibly sleepy. So, and also because the first day I got so seasick, I was also a little bit put off by the thought of alcohol. So I only had 2 drinks the whole time. But for the purposes of people who are maybe thinking about going on future cruises, it's just something else to think about. Yeah, you might not get your money's worth out of drinking, out of the drink package because you drink a lot, but also if you want variety and ease, because it was much easier to just put everything on, oh, you have the limited, I'll have this, I'll have that.
If you have the unlimited, I mean, there's a lot of considerations, right? So it's not just for the big alky drinkers like me. I mean, there's a lot of things you get out of it, right? So
the sodas and the water.
Yeah, sodas, water, coffees if you get up early, coffee if you need to stay up late, and the convenience. So on those drink lines with people who don't have unlimited, they are waiting because they have to scan their card, check their card, go print out a receipt, sign a receipt, and depending on what time of day it is, you're waiting a good bit of time just to get a drink that you're buying one by one. Whereas with the unlimited, I mean, it really is like set it and forget it. And like Yesenia said, right? So taste it, don't like it, don't drink it, and get something else. That's kind of where the value is. But it's also just think about the hydration, right? So for me, I've learned over time. So I totally get bottles of water everywhere because I can get them everywhere for free and I don't have to use a cup. And then I store those in my room and use those to keep hydrated, because that's the other thing we don't think about on those cruises is how to stay hydrated. If you don't have the drink package, you're not going to get a water bottle unless you pay for it. So you either have to find your own bottle or get cups of water that are like 6 ounces, and that's not going to help anybody. So
Yeah,
that
That's
was
actually a
my
good
concern.
point.
Olga
Yeah.
actually got the water package. That's what, because that was the only thing that kind of made sense. Otherwise, it was like, for the most part, it was like either water or having, I don't know, juice, everything. Like the Cafe Promenade actually they use Lavazza, so it's fairly decent coffee. So we were perfectly fine with it. That's why, that's why I said, I kept looking at it, okay, I usually drink this, and then that's what I do for lunch, and that's and it always came down to yeah, I'll stand a couple, 5 extra minutes waiting for my thing to sign. But I'm fine with one cocktail, I don't know, in the evening, and that's gonna be good enough. But it all comes down to, again, personal preferences, and it's all available whichever way you want it on board. Now I wanted to ask, so we mentioned already the photo ops and everything. So I'm assuming that you did photo ops. Did both of you do
Yes.
photo ops, or just Leana did?
I did one, and only because Desi was a returning cruiser, so she got it included in her, because of she had postponed or whatever. So that was the only photo op I did. This is a Deep Space Nine cast photo.
Yeah.
I did quite a few this time, just because there's a lot of DS9 people on the ship, and one of the things I got to do was finally tell Nana visitor thank you, because Sid City, she would show up on the Sid City. Andrew Robinson, the same thing. They would show up to the Sid City stuff during the dark times, and I got to talk to some of those people during those times, and I got to talk to them in person for the first time ever, because I just don't remember if Nana was ever at SCLV 2021, so I didn't get to talk to her then. And it was just nice to be able to see something in person to them about that time period, and just say thank you. And Terry Farrell was there, and I think I'm trying to remember who else I did, but I focused on DS9 people, and Tawny Newsome, that was the other one, and Denise Crosby as well. Yeah, so I kind of caught up on my photo ops. I do more photo ops than autographs.
Yeah. Well, this was the 30th anniversary of DS9 cruise officially, so that's why we actually had a nice one. And fantastic that they did the cast photo was tremendous. I have to say, Epic really, it was amazing. I was watching them because they had actually, I don't remember now how many people were actually standing around, part of this staff, and they just kept moving the chairs depending on how many people were in the photo with the cast. So it could be 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, up to 4 people could be in the photo, and they kept just adding and deducting chairs, and it was it was amazing to watch, just not the game of musical chairs, no, but it was okay, how many do you have? 2, and then somebody would come in, rush in, add an extra chair, and boom, 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 everything was moving just wonderfully. That's the only one that we did, because I was thinking about adding a couple, and then I figured, what, I don't. It just so happens that I've met pretty much everybody on board. The only one that I really wanted to do, and there was a conflict, and that was, of course, Todd Stashwick, who was a complete surprise. Somebody did mention on Twitter, there was a sort of a rumor going there, I think I saw Todd checking in, in LA, in San Pedro, and and then of course, boom, he just shows up, in on board. So that was a great fun. I don't know, has it ever happened like this before, Jesse, when somebody would just randomly show up unannounced, or add it at the very last moment that they didn't have time to announce?
Maybe once, but I can't remember of who it was. But it's happened before, where we're surprised that they showed up. That's happened before.
So it was great, and he was a fantastic addition. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be seeing him more and more at the conventions, because
he fit right in.
He fit exactly. He was just perfect
right
in terms of, he's a fan himself, a huge fan himself. So when he did the introduction before we had the Picard screening, it was just like, oh my God, like people are like, I hate you as Captain Shaw, but I just want to hug you.
So whenever he was doing his photo op, I happened to be in line for another photo op, and I had to exercise my adulting skills and be disciplined about the money to spend. I did not get the photo op with him. Am I kicking myself? A little bit, but not really. Anyway, I had to like stand in front of him like just for a while. And so it was just nice to like just to be able to say, thank you for doing what you do. And
Yeah.
I don't like Captain China. So people were down Shaw was right.
But mind you, this is before, this is still at the, like we said, this was still episode 3 where everybody was like, oh my God.
Yeah. We hadn't seen episode 3 yet. Like it hadn't aired yet.
But this is way before he started to certainly, turn his reputation around, if you will, with the other episodes. But he was everywhere. I mean, he was walking around Promenade, he was singing at karaoke, he took part in Denise's the improv dub that they do with the TOS episodes where they overdub the words, and
so funny
hilarious.
at that. He is hilarious.
This was probably one of the funniest things, and it's specifically thanks to Todd and especially to Tony Newsom, who just completely took it to another level, I have to say. I mean, I don't know how you can top what she came up with. So it's kind of like, I wish we could like actually illustrate what they were doing, but it was just indescribable.
I know it's a shame that they don't, I mean, maybe they video it, but it's a shame they don't share that video because
it's a very natural, it's sort of like because again, they do it specifically very late in the evening when obviously quite a bit of alcohol is involved. So it kind of meant to be this sort of like completely off the hook, not PG-13. It's almost R-rated, I think, in many ways.
I just wish it was done in the bigger room because I tried to get in. That's maybe the only.
You know what? I think it outgrew because I don't know if 2020 was it this full. It kind of was, but it wasn't. I think it's sort of one of those things that kind of grows, like Garrett Wang's show in 2020 ended up being completely, it was overwhelming. People literally sitting on each other's heads, and so they had to move it to Royal Theater. I don't know if like the atmosphere would be different, like the Royal Theater has its own kind of vibe going, and here everybody just is sitting in that Studio B, which is technically it's an ice skating rink.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, when we were sitting on the stinky side.
But it was just so much.
But you know what? I have a little bit of a funny story. We were sitting right by Nana Visitor. For that, like she was like actually we weren't sitting, we were standing because there was no place to sit, and so she was like 2 feet behind us, and there were some people over by the bar, I guess waiting in line, I don't know, but they were just being really loud, just talking and everybody starts, it gets louder and then it gets louder and louder. So this was going on during the improv show, and she turned around and she was shushing people, and then she finally got up and she went over to them and like flat out told them to shut up, and we're like, yeah. Mom and Dad told them to just either shut up or GTFO. It was awesome. But she was very, very polite about it. But yeah, if Nana Visitor tells you to shut up, you're gonna shut up.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
No, I know it's one of the features of the cruise that a lot of people expect, even though technically speaking, it's not a given. None of the guests are required to do so, and I think it should be considered sort of like as a natural thing. If it happened, fantastic, but going in having that expectation. But did you have much interaction with anyone, like somebody you bumped into? I mean, the guests. So, like you said just now, with Nana was standing right there by you. Did you get to interact with anybody else?
Was Todd Stashwick, and I didn't even know who he was. Because he just doesn't look like he does on the show. And so it was right after my birthday dinner. We had a birthday dinner for me at the MDR. And so I had the cupcakes that Sean had brought me. And so we were waiting for the elevator, and he was there, and he asked about what was in the box. And I said, oh, cupcakes, would you like one? Because, we had a bunch left over. And he was like, oh, no, thank you, though. And he wished me a happy birthday, and I was like, thank you. So we get in the elevator, and then Kareen gets in the elevator, and then she starts fangirling and acting different. And so then I thought, oh, he's somebody. So then I look at Desi, and then she makes like like she kind of nods back to him, and I look at him like I'm supposed to know who this is. And so we all get off the elevator and I'm like, Desi, who was it? And she was like, it's Captain Sean. I was like, oh. I just thought he was a nice guy wishing me a happy birthday.
He was that too. But he's also
He was that too.
no, I would run into people randomly. Like I know for a fact some other folks, like he was a fixture at one of the bars or something, and people would have drinks with him at the cruise bars. But I mean, Mr. Picardo and his wife, they found one of the cruise ducks and they needed help hiding them. So another friend of mine and I, we helped him re-hide the duck and all that kind of fun
Aw,
stuff. So yeah,
That's so sweet.
it was adorable. And then I saw John Delancey here and there, and I actually saw him and Stashwick together, and we just said, hey, thanks for everything. And then I just, let them go on their merry way. I didn't stop them for pics. I know other folks had other like random pics and stuff with them, but I didn't get to do that. I didn't want to. I know it's hard to post those pictures anyway, they get in trouble, blah blah. So I just didn't want to tempt fate by asking.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people do love that, and like you said, Marina, like kind of expect it. But I don't know if it's because I'm from LA and I like no, just leave them the hell alone. They're people too.
Exactly. That's it's just they're
Yeah,
It's one thing where they're explicitly kind of like they themselves expect to have this sort of interaction, like Doug Jones did, for example, and our dear sweetheart Doug Jones. I mean, he literally said, he's like, yeah, come on over, give me a
or
hug.
Doug hugs.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Doug
I'm
hugs.
wondering how many Huggles, as he calls them. I just love this. I don't know how many people he hugged, but he has to be in the hundreds, because literally you will go up to him. He's he walking through the crowd towards whatever his next thing is, and say something to him. He was ready for it. He was like, he was hugging left and right.
He's
But,
kind of known for that, though.
Yeah,
He's,
yeah.
And again, I wasn't there, so I did FOMO for that because I'm like, Doug is hugging people and I'm stuck here. So
we missed it so terribly. Seriously, Jesse,
I don't
you're such
know.
a part of this experience.
Yeah, we did miss you, Jesse. It would have been fun to have you on there. But
yeah.
regarding
I was
Doug, even before COVID, Doug was like a walking con crud vector, because our host, I should say,
That's so well
even
put.
before COVID, I was like, he's gonna get the con crud and give it to everybody. Like,
But the thing is
I
that he
love Doug,
didn't.
but
You know what?
He didn't. He's built up an immunity, I think.
Yeah, it's like it is something to mention that we did end up having a sort of an outbreak. Quite a few people reported getting sick after the
yours.
cruise. And it's
Yours
both,
truly.
it's both COVID and I'm assuming like a whole bouquet of other unfortunate respiratory viruses. But that was actually my first thought when people were saying, "Oh, I'm sick," and I'm aside from like having a horrifyingly empty sensation in my stomach because I kissed a lot of those people or hugged them or shared
Right.
meals with them or whatever, and then I'm like, what about Doug? He hugged everybody and somehow he managed to come out unscathed. So well, bless him. I just love him. Speaking of just fans and everything, there were quite a few fan events, and especially one that we definitely have to touch upon, Yezenia, our favorite thing. But did you get to do anything else besides the swap? Like, we definitely have to talk about the swap because that was certainly quite an event. So let's talk about that, and then let's see if anything else comes up. 93 people, I am told, attended.
Wow.
This was, yes, unprecedented. I mean, it is something that's born out of STLV as it is, but it sort of grew into its own thing on board. And a lot of people were excited to learn that something like this was happening on board. A lot of people are bringing stuff. And as I just said, 93 people apparently showed up on that Saturday morning to swap their, whatever they brought, pins and lanyards and you name it.
I wanted to join you guys.
Yeah, I never go to that because there's so much to plan, and then like I'm not a crafter, so I would just buy something, and by the time I remember, I don't have anything to trade. So I honestly, Lord forgive me, but like people like would come up to me and say, "Hey, I made this for the craft swap," and then that's the only way I get my hands on any of that stuff.
I got extras from other people this year, but here's the funny fact: the thing I wanted to do, my Cricut only showed up like a few days before. It was my first time to do Cricut anything, so I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna like ruin everyone's, you know, I saw what everybody else traded at STLV and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna not do it this year. I'm gonna save my design thing that I want to give everyone for STLV. So, I'm new to cricketing. Is that what it's called? I don't even know. I don't even know the verb.
I'm not a crafter.
Let's
So
make it a thing.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm not a crafter. So that like Jesse said, I bring my either, you know, the rubber bands or the pins, which, you know, this year that actually worked out quite nicely. I mean, I brought 100 pins, which was a fun experience going through TSA pre-check, because apparently the way I stacked them made it look like
That's
a
right.
little heating grill. Yeah, like a radiator grill. And they pulled me out and they're like, what is it in your bag? So I had to, I'm like, it's probably the pins and it's over there. And once they saw that it was, that they just let me go, of course. But yeah, otherwise it's like, yeah, thankfully I got rid of most of them because, you know, it turned out to be pretty popular. But you said it, you were there. This was a very brisk event. I did not expect to see something
It
quite so
was-
high energy.
Yeah, it was intense, and that not the room, the restaurant, we had it at the Niners
The
bar.
Niners bar.
The Niners bar, yeah, Playmakers, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, that's like plenty of space. Like, I wish we had that much space for STLV. And then I get there, and I got there a few minutes early. And by the time I got there, people were already like knee deep in trading. There must have been 75 people already there
Wow.
before the appointed time. And so I got stuck in the little like back room, back in that like players box room, I think, or owner's box room is what they call it.
Mhm.
So there were like 4 or 5 of us that were way in the back over there. So I had to kind of like go to the front and be like, hey, there's a bunch of us trading over there. And, you know, don't forget us back there. So yeah, of course I ran out of my cards because I only had like, I want to say 45 of them. But yeah, it was intense. It was a lot of fun. And there were some really super, super creative items, you know, always at these craft swaps, there's always, you know, items that people make that you're truly like fascinated, like how did you make that, you know? So some people, you know, there's a lot of variety in the skill level, and that's the beauty of craft swap, is that, you know, whatever you put your energy and your heart and soul into, and it's Star Trek related, someone is going to appreciate it. Like there was just such a good variety of items, and some people that, you know,
And it's amazing to see how much it evolves, because it starts out minor, you know, somebody brought stickers and somebody brought pins, and then next time it becomes bigger and more involved, you know, like more complex, more interesting in a way.
like the guy
It kind
that
of applies to
painted
pretty much everything that I
painted.
saw on everything that I saw on board that people would bring for giveaways, such as, for example, the ducks. I think it started out with, I think, one pair of women brought ducks one year, and then it's like people thought, well, that's a fantastic idea. So this year there was at least 6, and there was not only ducks, there were also 3D printed, you know, Spock busts, and there was something else. It was just like I found a random tribble, in, you know, like just you know, lying about. It's like over and over, and like it kind of grows and balloons. You know, the door decorations. It's a whole experience.
The door,
Oh
the
my
door
God.
decorations are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So the ducks, I learned this over. Apparently, the ducks thing is a cruising thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
like
general.
Star Trek. But like
Yeah,
Star Trek people, we turned it around.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I actually found my first cruise duck thing, and it has "Don't talk to me until I have my rectagino" written, you know, around the neck.
I loved the duck that I saw everyone else's ducks, and then the duck that I helped Mr. Picardo and his wife, you know, Lyra, and I looked at it. Those were really creative ducks. I'm like, who makes these ducks for you guys?
Yeah. No, like, but people go into all this extraordinary, you know, like, I mean, it takes time. It takes imagination, of course, because some of this stuff is incredible. It's like, how do you even come up with this? And then, of course, it's like, we brought 100 of these and we hid them around the ship and go at it. So I'm actually curious. I'm like, is it possible, you know, we're gone and they're setting up for the 80s cruise, and somebody's like,
somebody finds a duck.
damn it, we keep finding all these Trek ducks around here. What is going on? So
Hey, I have
I'm sure they
question.
find random things.
Yeah. Hey, I found the duck on my second cruise, but it was from the cruise before ours. It wasn't like a Trek duck. It was like
There you
from just
go.
a normal cruise.
Yeah.
Hey, so I have a question. The community room thing, did that work out at all? I haven't heard anything about it.
So here's
I-
here's what happened
ahead.
is it both worked and didn't work, and it worked in the way that those people who knew that it was there, and especially those people who kind of expected to go to an event because they knew it was happening there, that was a great thing because you definitely had a very nice spot that had I don't think that bar was actually open all the time because except for the events that actually did involve alcohol and I was there was actually nobody staffing it. But bottom line is you have this room where you can set up, you want to do a reading of some sort, you want to have a discussion, you want to have a presentation. So like for example, my friend Brian did a presentation on anthropology of Klingon batholith. And you actually have the audio and the video, and so he had the whole thing set up there, and that's what we did. I went there for podcasters meetup, and it actually ended up being sort of like a mini panel. You know how we Trekkies are, we self-organize, people just who moved the chairs, and there was like 8 of us, maybe 10 of us, and it was like a round table talking about podcasting. So that sort of thing. But same thing is sort of like with the museum. A lot of people actually did not know that it was there, and there was no way to advertise it. So the only way to know what's going on, what is planned, is if you would go up to deck 14 and look at the schedule that was hung on the wall, where people would handwrite, like, okay, between 12 and 1 on this day, my group is doing this. So unless you actually go there, you don't know. So, sort of like, that something is happening there if you already know that it's happening there. That was the thing. So it has to evolve. I think there has to be like a little bit more thoughts, like how to organize it better so people actually are aware that this thing is there.
I agreed. I didn't, I read about it and I understood it was new, but the sign up for it was completely confusing to me. And I didn't even know, once people signed up for, like you said, you got to do some listen to some interesting things. I didn't even know that even happened, to tell you just how underground it was for a community room. You know what I mean? Like, I wish they could let us sign up for it prior to boarding, so that way we could plan for it at least.
Yeah, that's
But
the
it also
big,
advertise for it.
Support the community, that's
Yeah,
the
but
whole
at the same
point.
time, it's like
Mhm.
because we don't know the schedule, how
Mhm.
it's gonna final schedule gonna look like until we actually get on board. Even though
That's
the
true.
preliminary thing is a good thing, but it still can be changed, which we know
Yeah,
has
That's
happened in
true.
the past.
this has always been kind of an issue because like you don't, so if you think a normal cruise, you're usually going with a group and you've already decided how you're going to keep in touch with each other, right? The smaller group. But this is a group where the whole group is the ship, right? And so keeping in touch with all those people to let them know what's going on has kind of always been a thing in terms of like the craft swap. That's a good example, right? Because a craft swap isn't, sponsored or on the schedule. It's something we do. And word of mouth has just gotten really good that people know about it. And I think that's gonna have to evolve for if they keep using that room is it's a bunch of Trekkies at some point have got to figure out how to communicate on a ship even without internet. That's the challenge to all the Trekkies out there.
Basically.
In the app, the Royal Caribbean app, there's that chat feature, but unfortunately the chat's asynchronous and doesn't always, even asynchronous is just being kind. Sometimes it doesn't even give you the
No,
message.
Yeah, and you don't get notifications either. It's like unless you
No.
Right.
yeah.
And you
so-
have to like know if they're not in your cabin, you kind of almost have to know their blood type. So that's it's a mess. But yeah, someone at some point is going to bring some kind of Wi-Fi broadcasting internal secondary internet to solve all the problems of the world.
yeah, well, yeah, we'll come up with something. Let's see. Let's kind of summarize because I think we discussed basically most of the things. I mean, we can probably discuss all the little details until cows come home, but
This has been one of our longest podcasts, and
Yes.
I am not offended at all.
So just to kind of like last minute thoughts, well, actually before the last minute thoughts, I mean, once you were done, did you just go home? Did you get to do anything in LA? And then let's kind of summarize how the experience was for you, like what stood out the most, that sort of thing. So let's start with Yez.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Well, did you do anything after the cruise? So the cruise is over. Like, did you just done, going back to
Besides
work?
drive home.
Yeah.
No, I just drove home. I did something before the cruise though.
Oh, that's nice.
What was that?
So before the cruise, Desiree picked up Nicola from the airport. Nicola from
Oh
Scotland.
my gosh, I
One of
missed her
our
too.
Scottish ladies,
Oh,
yes.
Yes,
And,
yes, yes.
Then we said, we'll drive you around LA because Nicola had never been to LA, so she wanted to see some of the touristy spots. And Desi was going to be coming, and who else? Sean, no, not Sean. Sean was getting there late. I don't know, but so I thought, you know what, it's going to be kind of packed in my little Camry. Let me just rent a minivan. So I rented a mom van, and we took Nicola and Eric to some places. Oh yeah, that's right. We went to Santa Monica. Got stuck in
Hollywood
traffic
sign?
a lot. And then we had a little bit of a LA tour with Nicola, and then Rocky joined us, Eric and Laz. And then Karen and Heidi, our European friends, also joined us. So we had
Yeah,
and I think, and
just
Rodney was Rodney. But I can't even remember. There were so many people that ended up in that mommy van at the end.
yeah. And let me
Did a
let
tour
me
of Hollywood.
let me throw a plug in here for Yez's travel tours. Yes, travels tour
She's
guide.
connected
because
with everything.
she did the same for me when I went to Vegas, and like I can't believe how much we saw, and I was only able to be there one evening. So
Oh, and when
yeah.
you came to LA, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's your
I didn't
side
let you out of the car though.
Funny.
Anyway, we did that, and then we ended up that day at the Scum and Villainy party, which Ernesto had kind of publicized. So it was just Scum and Villainy very graciously opened early that day at 3 p.m.
Thanks to Bonnie.
Yeah.
Bonnie, who also did like a mini concert for the Trekkies, as far as I know.
Yeah, so that was some fun. We left a little bit early. We left like at 8, like right a little bit. I think, yeah, we definitely heard Bonnie start singing, but we left a little bit early because everybody was tired and had a very long day, a very long week by that point. So yeah, that was kind of our pre-cruise festivities. And then after the cruise, I just went right home. No, I dropped off Sean at his hotel, and then I went home.
So what stood out the most for you personally? Like and are you planning the next year cruise? So I guess that's it. And then we'll switch over, same thing with Leana.
Oh, sorry. So what stood out the most from the cruise?
Yeah.
Well, let me see. Honestly, it was just nice to just have a relaxing vacation for me. That's what I really needed. But I really liked that the entire ship was Star Trek. The theming was amazing. So many little details, so much thought that they put into making things Trek themed. The music, the lighting, the themed parties, even though I miss most of them, like it was just Trek love everywhere. And because it's one contained big metal box, everybody on that big metal box, floating metal box in the ocean, everybody was a Star Trek fan. So that was the best part about it. And like Leana said at the start, I'm not sure that I would ever go on another cruise that was not completely Star Trek. The cruising part of it was not I wasn't a big fan of the water part of it and getting seasick, but yeah, it was just that version that I really, really loved.
Well, I will tell you, you're in good company, because my co-host, I remember telling me, I'm not a cruiser, I'm not sure I'll do this again. And then there she is.
Well, no, listen, I said I need
that episode.
I told you I need a break, and unfortunately pandemic did it for me. So I wasn't lying.
And then Marina's like, I'm gonna do all the things
All the things now, right? Yeah, it's the peopling part.
No,
You think you're done with
I am
people.
still, listen, I am still looking at it as a very dual experience. settings. The cruise part, it's just, listen, I have two settings. I'm either sour cream or cooked crawfish. So sitting by the pool, going to a beach is unfortunately not something I enjoy doing at all. So the cruising part, I'm kind of like still more or less about. But as far as the floating track event, it's of course it's in the class of its own. There's nothing out there that's similar in any way. So I do want to hear also Leanna's sort of like,
Sure.
did you do anything before LA, after LA, and what stood out the most for you?
So I live in LA. I live in
Okay, so you don't
downtown.
have to do anything in LA then.
No, because of just work pressures and everything else going on at the same time, because that's just how it is, right? Right before a trip, everything piles on.
Yeah.
I did not get to do any of the embarkation parties. I planned to go to Scum and Villainy and all that stuff. Didn't get to do any of it. But so as soon as I got off the ship, I came home. I went and finally saw Cocaine Bear because that was important to me. So I had my priorities. Then I met up with actually our friend Sean Mooney and Helen Collins at Scum and Villainy on Friday night, and we just kind of hung out, and we were all just sort of like stunned, just kind of like looking around, just I remember the dazed glazed looks on all of our faces of just like, oh, finally, like, Scum and Villainy was bopping and crazy, but we were just kind of in our own space, if you will, just absorbing it. And I think maybe that was Friday, maybe that was Saturday night. Maybe I'm not sure anymore. It all kind of runs together. But I did meet up with those guys at Scum and Villainy for a little bit, either Friday or Saturday. But yeah, but immediately after I got off the ship, I came home, loved my cat. And then I walked over to watch Cocaine Bear. That was important. And I did want to say that during the cruise, one of the funny things we did, you're talking about technology earlier, a lot of us are also fans of other Starry franchises, and we all got together and watched the Mandalorian episode drop as well.
Yeah.
in my room. And I sincerely just loved hosting that for everyone. It was a fun thing to be able to do. And some people hadn't seen the more recent episode of Picard, and so we were able to like get people caught up on Picard as well too. So that's kind of nice.
That's wonderful. That is great. So I know that Jess is going definitely next year. Are you both going as well?
I'm not sure yet. You mentioned it earlier as well, Marina, like the scheduling part of it. I have to plan for it, and I did not sign up for it on board. So now I'm even more at a disadvantage because my price is going to be a lot higher, right? So I'm a budget person, so I'm like, let me think about it.
I was lucky because remember how they started where you could sign up before even a cruise went on?
Yeah,
Is that how it all yeah. So
mhm.
I did that, and I must have been like right on when they opened up, because I got like the only single cabin. Well, they call it's an interior studio. So basically it is like a twin bed in the bowels of the ship on deck 2. And I'm okay with that because I'm not in my room enough. And I've been paying for like double occupancy for years. So now I can just pay for what I'm going to use. So I'm very happy with it. So I actually saved money as people were saying they were spending more. So I'm very happy.
I need that horizon. So I like being on the ocean. The rocking actually kind of made me drowsy because I felt sleepy. I didn't get seasick, and I actually have the opposite problem. I have the land legs or whatever they're called. So I trip just walking normally, but I do like having the view of the ocean. At least I think if I didn't, I might actually get seasick. I may. So that's another reason why I need to be in that room.
Knock on wood, both my sister and I happen to have fairly solid sea legs, as it turned out.
Yes.
So it was actually like my heart goes out to everybody who suffered, especially since it was two separate events, if you will. So the embarkation day when we were pulling out, we were still in the middle of the storm. That was not pleasant for sure. And then of course, as we were coming back, apparently, the ship was going very fast because I'm assuming some sort of nautical reason for it. And again, Pacific is just choppy that time of the year. So my sister and I were actually in the Uber, and the guy asked us, I'm like, well, so how choppy was it going up? So apparently it's a thing this time around for cruises. And I mean, it got to a point where you saw they were hanging those, sick bags on the railings of the staircases in case people would get sick.
Oh,
It
I've
was
never seen that
it
before. Oh
was
my
that bad.
God.
Wow.
It was that bad going back. The last day we were sitting in Dr. Noor's biology presentation, and I kid you not, I mean, you can actually see like there's like a row of people sitting in front of me. We were in the Logic Lounge, so the Star Lounge on deck 5, and everybody's just like moving at the same time, side to side, and something is creaking behind the projector screen. And it was a very creepy sensation because I'm okay. Like I can feel that, yeah, there's far too much movement that my body's comfortable
Yeah.
with, but I'm okay. But and the promenade was probably like, I don't know, at least a third less people than you would expect normal because it was not pleasant.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was there was one year James Darren was on stage, and I listen, my hat's off to him because that was one of our rockier boats. I think it was the first year where we had rocky weather. We couldn't even stop at their island because the water
wow.
was so rough. And James Darren, I swear, was like just rolling from side to side of the stage. I don't know how he kept singing because you could just tell he couldn't keep his stable on the stage, and he finally just like grabbed on to like a piano and just that's how he sang the rest of the
Wow.
night.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy is old school.
I have to agree with Marina that on that last night, like even I was like, okay, like I said,
It's
it,
a bit
it didn't
much.
bother me before. I was like, yeah, okay, come on, guys, this is ridiculous.
But regardless, you know what? We had a marvelous trip. Next year, well, as I already mentioned, I'm sort of in a limbo right now, and sort of like Juliana. If I do go, I will probably end up paying the higher price and everything. But so far, it's not. The schedule is just not working, unfortunately. But we'll see. It's a Star Trek. Never say never. And I guess we kind of covered most everything that I set out that I wanted to discuss, especially with two first time cruisers. Where can people find you online? Like if you would like to plug anything, this is your chance.
I do a lot of cosplay for charity and different fandoms. So at Leana_Ahmed, that's my Instagram handle. And I used to write for Culture Slate and I used to podcast myself, but those are in hiatus, and it was Culture Slate's Star Trek culture podcast. But I don't know if we're ever going to bring that back, but if we do, go check it out for some old podcasts there if you want. Yeah.
Great.
And I am mostly in the on Facebook in the Star Trek Convention Experiences group, aka the unofficial group, because that's what I still call it.
Yep.
But mostly where I can be found.
Wonderful. And Jesse, where can people find you?
I am still in the Star Trek conventions community
Oh my
group,
goodness.
whatever we call it,
Experience.
old STLV, whatever it is.
I got it right, and I'm not even an admin, Jesse.
It's always gonna be STLV to me. I'm on Facebook and then on Instagram. You can if you find me on Facebook, you'll find me everywhere. So
Cool.
Yeah.
and I forgot to say, and I'm also I've been the admin of the Star Trek The Cruise groups for the past few years, and we have Star Trek The Cruise 7 groups started already. So if you haven't joined, look that up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I should plug the holodeck waste removal crew too. That's something we started during the pandemic. Just as a way for to get people together to talk through episodes. It became a place to keep spoilers off of everyone's feeds and off of our other group pages that we all jointly manage. I created it as a place where the turnaround time from episode drop is 24 hours. So after 24 hours, go to holodeck. You can talk about it there. We actually started back meeting again on Friday nights. We toast good news, then we get into it about whatever show is airing at the moment. Right now it's Picard, and we also do talk about other franchises too. But yeah, join us there on Friday nights while we have Star Trek on air.
Well, something that we probably should bring up because it does come up every once in a while. We do have the away teams. So Yezenia is part of a very active LA away team, which guys, you're amazing. And I happen to be part of the New York one, and we try to do stuff on our end as well. We actually have this coming week on the 5th, April 5th, coming up. We're going to have a first contact party in one of the bars in New York City. So that's something to look up. So it's easy to find. Like New York Away Team is a group on Facebook, and I'm assuming same goes for the LA Away Team, correct?
Yes, LA Away Team on Facebook. There's also, we're on Instagram now, la.away.team. And then also, well, I may as well plug the SDCC Away Team, which is for anyone that is planning to attend San Diego Comic-Con, or it will be in San Diego for the outside activations during Comic-Con.
And of course, the aforementioned, the Star Trek Convention Experiences group, which is very helpful for anyone who is going to Star Trek Las Vegas. And so feel free to join. Lots of vets, any questions we can always answer. Both Jesse and I are part of the admin team. And of course, you can find Shoreleaf on Facebook, Shoreleaf, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast, or you can also find us on Twitter at Shoreleaf. And I am on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram under my full name, so easily findable. And I guess that's it. We've reached the end. So ladies, thank you so much for joining us. This was a wonderful discussion. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Vegas, and have fun and keep tracking.
Yes,
Thanks,
so much.
everybody.
Thank you so much. Live
Live long and prosper.
Cheers.